Welcome, everyone. Wonderful to have you here and to have an opportunity to meditate together. And thank you for rising up and chanting in Pali. We've been talking about refuge, this idea of finding safety, finding protection, finding something reliable. And in the Buddha's teachings, many of the sermons or lectures that the Buddha gives, the person who's listening at the end says, "Magnificent, Master Gotama, magnificent, you've turned upright that which was upside down. You've shown the way to one who was lost. You've turned on a light in the darkness. And I go to refuge. I go to you. I go to the Buddha for refuge. I go to the Dhamma, the Buddha's teachings for refuge. I go to the Sangha, the community of Buddhist followers for refuge." And a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the Buddha, and then we talked about the teachings last week. And this week, I'll speak about the Sangha, about the community of followers. And when we're taking refuge, specifically, we're taking refuge in beings throughout the millennia that have realized awakening, that have walked the path to the end. And all, the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, all have this component in it, the potential of the human mind, the potential of the human life. But Sangha is also, like the Pali word, is simply community. And we absolutely cannot do this alone. That's what the message is. And there's so many times where the Buddha talks about Kalyana Mita. This is a Pali word, and Kalyana is really beautiful. And Mita is friend, a beautiful friend, a friend that truly brings out the best in you and truly sees the best in you. A beautiful friend. And metta, this word friend, is related to the word metta for loving friendliness, benevolence, goodwill. And I'm going to quote or refer to a lot of passages tonight because the Buddha says it best, and he talks about this so much, and it's just so important. And I think we have a sense of that, having just come out of COVID, how important, how social we are, and how important connection and community and belonging is. And the first thing I'll quote is several times in the suttas. It's in the numerical discourses, it's in the Itivuttaka. Many times the Buddha says this. The spiritual path is an inner journey, but he says this: in regard to external factors, I do not perceive another single factor so helpful as good friendship for a meditator, for a practitioner. There's another interaction between two followers of the Buddha, and one asks, the teacher is Sariputta, and Sariputta is like the right-hand person of the Buddha. And he asks, he's asked, Sariputta is asked, how many conditions are there for the arising of right view? And right view is both the beginning and the end of our spiritual practice. How many conditions are there for the arising of right view? And Sariputta answers, there are two conditions for the arising of right view: the voice of another and wise attention. So there you have those two things, the external, which is the voice of another. We need an example. We need input. We need fresh input to even get started on the spiritual path. And then our own effort, our own wise attention. These are the two conditions for the arising a right view. And that's in the middle length discourses, Sutta 43. And then in the connected discourses, Sutta in the book of 45, Sutta 49, and there's so many. There's about 10 in this little section of the Buddha's teachings that say something similar, where the Buddha says, meditators, the dawn is the forerunner and precursor of the sunrise. In the same way, good friendship is the forerunner and precursor of the Noble Eightfold Path for a meditator. A meditator with good friends can expect to develop and cultivate the Noble Eightfold Path. The last sutta that I'll refer to right now is a very famous sutta, and it gets referred to a lot. It's also in the connected discourses in the same book, book 45, which is about the Noble Eightfold Path. And it's Ananda. Some of you will know this. Ananda, who's all excited, comes out of meditation kind of with this aha. And he goes up to the Buddha, and Ananda was very close to the Buddha. He was his attendant for 25 years. And he's basically, sir, I can figure this out. Sir, good friends, companions, and associates are half the spiritual life. They're so important. They're half of it. You know, this external factor that's so crucial. And this is what the Buddha answers. Not so, Ananda, not so. Good friends, companions, and associates are the whole of the spiritual life. A practitioner with good friends, companions, associates can expect to develop and cultivate the Noble Eightfold Path. Quite powerful. You know, Ananda, wow, I've really figured it out. It's like half of it. Half of it is who I hang around with. Half of it is who my friends are. And the Buddha's like, it's the whole of the spiritual life. And there are so many other passages where the Buddha is clear about, you know, it's up to us. We have to cultivate wholesome mind states. And so it's another one of these paradoxes where I actually think it's 100% of our spiritual practice is our community and our good friends, and 100% of our spiritual life and our spiritual practice is our own and effort is commitment and endeavor. But this idea of Sangha, this idea of community, absolutely crucial. We absolutely cannot do it alone. And when I think about community, and when I think about Sangha, and when I think about a community that's really having an effect, really bringing about huge change and growth for people, I always think of Alcoholics Anonymous. To me, this is the group that really is putting their money where their mouth is in terms of community and really building peer support and changing people's lives. So I looked up, you know, why is AA so effective? And there are many factors. Number one, community, social connection. Number one. And number two was that it's completely based on honesty. Like you have, it that's uh, foundational. And number three, they have the structure of these 12 steps. And number four, there's this shared belief in the potential to change. And I was like, I mean, this completely transfers to the Buddha's teachings. The Sangha is one of the three refuges, the community. It's essential. Absolutely cannot do it alone. Must have good spiritual friends. And number two, we have to be honest. Have to. I mean, it's the whole thing is about truth. Hopefully, and we get more honest, right? We get more and more honest with ourselves, and more honest with one another. It's an area that we grow in. It's not like a light switch on or off. And number three, we have the structure of the Noble Eightfold Path, and number four, hopefully, I mean, you have to have this shared belief that the mind can be trained, that we can grow and change and develop. But it really is the model as far as I'm concerned. And I think one part of it is because people that are part of Alcoholics Anonymous see their need. And I think it behooves us to see our need for spiritual community. Years ago, when I was early days as a nun, I always thought, I think my very first Dhamma reflection, I want to sit there and say, hello, my name is Ayya Ahimsa, and I'm addicted to existence. I mean, you can look at the Buddha's teachings as us having this addiction, an addiction to sense pleasures, an addiction to new experiences, an addiction to being. And we're all like weaning, detoxing off of samsara. So we absolutely, absolutely need one another. And we're social beings, we need connection, we need support. And there's so many different reasons why. The spiritual life is often, and this is from the Buddha's teachings, depicted as going against the stream. We're going up current from our culture, which is based on greed and fear. I mean, capitalism, And so when we come into a group of practitioners, a group of people that are interested in spirituality, we're stepping out of the mainstream, and we're stepping into hopefully something that's different. It has a different flavor, and it's not as superficial. Some of our conversations can be deeper and more meaningful, more vulnerable. And there's what brings us together is some shared values where we're putting less emphasis on externals and more emphasis on virtue, ethics, wholesome qualities like generosity, honesty, and there are many groups that are beautiful and wonderful, and many causes. And a lot of it is a lot of groups that are where you do get this real sense of community has a lot of times has to do with value, shared values. Environmental groups and so many volunteer organizations, et cetera, et cetera. I don't mean to say that, we're like head and shoulder. We're not at all. But they're hopefully when we're with other meditators and other practitioners, there is a feeling of connection and there is a feeling of depth. And we must have it. It's needed. Many of us are starved for it, starved for a sense of meaning, a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging, and a sense of being able to contribute and make a difference. And we can make a difference in one another's lives by even the conversations that we have with one another. And another aspect that's really important with spiritual friendship is that it gives us a clearer picture of ourselves. Both, probably more often than not, in terms of the positive. When you meditate, you can start to see some of the dirt and the not great things in your heart and mind and life. And it's really important for us to have this mirror of our spiritual friends that can mirror back, normalize that, and mirror back a really clear picture of us. The kind of dependability that we have, the kind of honesty, the kind of generosity, the kindness. This is beautiful to be getting it mirrored back to us. And also in spiritual community, hopefully there's a lot of understanding and empathy, and that we can get encouragement and uplift for our hearts and get inspired. Sometimes we can get a little bit dry or get a little bit discouraged. And this is where spiritual friendship makes all the difference. And for all 5 of the hindrances that are universal and that we come in contact as soon as we start to meditate, these 5 obstacles that are in every human mind that we're whittling away at: sense desire, ill will, dullness and drowsiness, restlessness, and skeptical doubt. All 5 of the hindrances and obstacles in meditation, spiritual friendship is one antidote. When we get to have conversations with other meditators about what they're doing when they're working with their hindrances. And again, because it normalizes it and it keeps it out in the open, and we can learn. We can learn from one another. We can learn from anybody and everybody. And that you start to feel that when you start to have spiritual conversations. And another really, really important component of the Sangha is harmony. And this isn't a superficial niceties. It's genuine harmony, because we're coming together around core values and shared values. And one of those values, like AA, is honesty. And we live in a pretty conflict-averse culture. But conflict's part of life. It's part of relationship. It's part of living together. And the Buddha's teachings gives us tools and instructions for working through conflict. And when you work through conflict, and have a repair, it's actually stronger than before. Trust gets built and resilience gets built. Very, very important component of spiritual community. And one really good framework for working through conflict is to understand and to be able to talk about the difference between intention and impact. Very often, if we get hurt, if I get hurt, and then I go to the person that I feel misunderstood by or disrespected by and try and bring it up, if that person just insists that that's not what they meant and just talks about their good intentions, we end up missing one another. I'm actually not talking to you about your intention. I'm actually just talking to you about the impact of what you did and what you said on me, how it landed. And that actually you could have the best intentions in the world. And I don't even want to question them when we get to finish about the impact and you hear it and you take responsibility and repair it and respond to it, then we can talk about your intention. And it's my job to totally accept it. Oh, you didn't mean that. I get it. I trust that. That's what you're telling me. And a repair happens. But if do you know what I'm talking about? If I can't talk about the impact, you just stand there and tell me over and over and over again about that's not what you meant. That's not what you intended. A repair can't happen because we're not hearing one another. And these kinds of conversations are essential for us to be able to have. And we can take our spiritual practice and we don't need to say these are the Buddhist teachings or anything like that with people that we live with, even our partners. But we can begin to bring these tools into those environments and even into our work environment. We can start to try and be more honest and more confident that conflict doesn't just be, I grew up in a household where it would actually get said, well, if you don't say it, it's not there. It certainly is there. Everyone feels it. It's in the air. You're so angry. I didn't say that. Yeah, but you're slamming all the cupboard doors, And this is, we don't have a lot of skills, some of us, many of us. And I will say for living in community, even family, it can be extremely useful, refreshing, and helpful to have really conscious time where you talk about what does this mean to you? What does family mean to you? What does home mean to you? What do you want to feel when you come home? When my ex-husband, when we split up, my children were 8 and 10, and I realized, I was a mess. But after a few months, I realized, we're kind of a new family unit. And it really made a difference. I sat down, my kids were 8 and 10, and we had that conversation. I said, we're a new family, and we get to decide. And we wrote a mission statement. And I asked my 8-year-old daughter, what do you want to feel when you're in your home? What do you want the family to be like? And it was amazing. We came up with what both my children wanted was to be able to feel what they felt. That there's space for that and that to be allowed. Like if you're grumpy, you can be grumpy. There's space for that. That can be held. And I was fine with that. I said, that's fine, except you need to be willing to say it. I'm grumpy. I'm grumpy right now. And then you can be as grumpy as you want to be. And there's no forcing you to suddenly not be grumpy. Um, and it was very, very helpful. Uh, and so we can do this as family units, as partners, as employers, employees, and in our living situation. That's what we did when we first started the monastery. We had a meeting, the four of us, and we all came with our top three core values that were really important to us. And this is wonderful if you start to understand someone's core values, then sometimes the way that we rub up against one another, there can begin to be, it can begin to be smooth. You know, if someone has a core value to feel safe and their strategy for feeling safe is to have routine and structure. If you're a person that, like for some people, routine and structure is like a trellis, and for some people, routine and structure is like a jail, like prison cell. But if you understand this person that you're living with, their core value is to feel safe. Then, because that's something you probably can very much relate to and want to support. And so then all the rules and the structure and the routine can be something that you can be more compassionate around and more patient around and more accepting of. And these are all skills and instructions and teachings that the Buddha gives about living together and living in harmony. And one other thing I'll say about living together and living in community is that um, it's it's lovely if we can figure out ways for people to feel safe, and then they can feel safe to fail, safe to mess up, safe to feel what they feel, safe to not know. Um, this is a lovely thing to have in your home where you live, and that there's lots of grace, lots of latitude, lots of landing on having a soft place to land. And I'll just end with this whole idea of safety and honesty and openness. Another huge component of the Buddhist teachings is this whole area of helping bringing out the best in one another for the for the for the best reasons. Help people um, be their best version of themselves. And this idea of admonition, this idea of feedback, when we really have a sense of harmony and a sense of safety, then we can even start having difficult conversations, and it be help someone rather than someone feeling judged or or that there's a harsh edge. And this is a huge part in the Buddha's teachings about Sangha, that we really, really inspire and encourage and help one another. And in the Dhammapada, verse 76, it says, like someone pointing to treasure is the wise person who sees your faults and points them out. Associate with such a sage. Good will come of it, not bad, if you associate with one such as this. And there's an encounter that the Buddha has with this horse trainer. It's in the numerical discourses in chapter 4, the book of Fours, Sutta 111. And the horse trainer's name is Casey. And the Buddha meets him and is like, oh yeah, you're a horse trainer. That's right. How do you train your horses? And Casey says, well, some I can train them gently. Some I can train, some I have to train sternly. And then there are others that I train, sort of a mix, some gentleness and some sternness. And then the Buddha says, what about a horse that's not responding to any of those 3 kinds of training? And then Casey goes, well, then I shoot it. I kill it. and then
to dinner.
and he goes, because I don't want it reflecting badly on the teaching, on the training, my reputation. And then Casey turns to the Buddha and says, you're a trainer of practitioners, of meditators. How do you train? And the Buddha says, I train some gently, some sternly, and some a mix. And then Casey goes, and what about the ones that don't respond to your training? And the Buddha goes, I kill them. And Casey's like, but wait, I thought you couldn't kill. I thought you have a rule about not taking life. And then the Buddha goes on and says, when someone is not responding to feedback and admonition and input and training, and I've tried this way and I've tried this way and I've tried this way, eventually I stop giving them feedback. And that is like dying. That's like being killed in the holy life. That's how important it is for us to be able to have relationships where we can be really honest with one another and give each other feedback and support the best in one another. Yeah, it's the only place where the Buddha says that he kills anything. And actually it happens. His charioteer, it's as the Buddha's dying, he gives instructions to all of his followers, don't talk to him because he's not responding at all. And it works. The charioteer, everyone sort of withdraws from him and stops interacting and stops talking to him. And he gets it. Like, oh, yeah, I've been really a bullhead. And he goes to Ananda and begs for teachings, and he gets them, and of course he becomes an arahant. But he needed that drastic treatment to sort of wake up. So I'm going to end there. I could go on and on. It's one of my favorite topics, community, spiritual community. I wouldn't still be on the path without my spiritual friends. It's just essential. But I'll end there.